Have you ever found yourself just completely, utterly drained by the smallest everyday annoyances?
Oh, constantly.
Right. I mean, you wake up in a decent mood, the sun is shining, the coffee tastes great.
The perfect morning.
Exactly.
Huh.
But then, like by noon, a passive-aggressive email from a coworker lands in your inbox.
Oh, the worst.
And then there's a petty squabble over, whose turn it is to empty the dishwasher in the break room.
Naturally.
And by the time you navigate the sheer invisible friction of daily office politics or family dynamics, you are just entirely exhausted.
Yeah, your energy is just gone.
Suddenly, your day feels like this incredibly heavy slog. You're dragging your feet, looking around, and asking yourself, why is everyone in the world so painfully difficult?
That feeling of wading through thick mud is universally recognizable, I think.
Yeah.
Every step just seems to take immense effort. And every interaction, no matter how minor it is, presents itself as this potential battleground. You aren't exhausted from physical labor, but the mental load of processing endless emotional friction is just completely depleting your energy reserves.
It really does. And I think our natural reflex in those moments is to point the finger outward.
Of course.
We blame the annoying coworker for not doing their job. We blame the lazy roommate for leaving their socks on the floor.
You're a bad driver cutting you off.
Exactly. We build this whole narrative that the world is happening to us. But for today's deep dive, we are digging into a source that completely flips that script.
It really does flip it on its head.
It does. It's a provocative essay published in September 2024 by an author named Xu. And the title alone is a bit of a wake-up call.
What is it?
It's called Forget Your Goal and You'll Sink into the Mire.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And our mission today is to explore Xu central and honestly somewhat radical premise. He argues that the root of all this daily suffering and interpersonal frustration isn't actually about other people being difficult.
Right.
The suffering comes from the fact that you either lack a life goal entirely or you had one and you've forgotten it.
Shifting the blame from the external world to your own internal direction is, well, it's a massive cognitive leap.
It really is.
It essentially revokes your permission to play the victim to everyday annoyances. By locating the source of your frustration entirely within your own lack of purpose, the essay challenges the very foundation of how most of us process a bad day.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if I am genuinely annoyed that my partner left their dirty dishes on the counter for the 5th day in a row, Xu is telling me that my anger is not actually about the dishes.
Nope, not about the dish.
It's about my own internal compass being broken. So how does the text explain the actual mechanics of that? Like, why would my lack of a life goal make dirty dishes infuriating?
What's fascinating here is the equation Sriafing establishes at the very beginning of the text to explain this psychological mechanism.
An equation.
Yeah, he treats human suffering almost mathematically. The equation is straightforward. The grander your life goal, the lighter your life feels.
Okay.
Conversely, the more short-sighted your goal, the more burdensome and heavy your life will become.
So there's a direct inverse relationship between the scale of your ambition and the weight of your daily stress.
Yes, exactly. And the essay provides a vivid breakdown of what a mind without a grand goal actually looks like.
Which is probably not pretty.
Not at all. According to the text, a goalless life is inevitably weighed down by trivial worries. Without a large target to focus on, the human brain defaults to hyperanalyzing its immediate surroundings.
Oh, that makes sense, like you zoom in too close.
Exactly. And this leads to a life defined by suffering, interpersonal conflicts, heightened anxiety, and localized fears. Shuefeng introduces the concept of the mire.
The mire, like a swamp.
Right. If you don't have a goal, you are living in the mire.
That imagery of sinking into a mire really sticks with you. And the text makes a point that this isn't just for people who wander aimlessly through their whole lives, right?
Right.
You could fall into the mire even if you started out with a great goal.
Yeah, the author points out how easily a person can forget their destination along the way. You start with a noble or grand ambition, but then you get distracted.
Distracted by what?
By the pursuit of fame, personal financial gain, various short-term desires, or, you simply get overwhelmed by the relentless daily challenges of survival.
Yeah, just paying the bills.
Exactly. The moment you lose sight of that distant horizon, you slip back into the mud. And the essay categorizes the symptoms of this mire very clearly.
What are the symptoms?
It's an emotional state characterized by jealousy, constant comparisons with peers, anger, resentment, and endless rivalry.
It reads like a checklist for a toxic workplace.
Or a bad day scrolling through social media.
Oh man, definitely. You're just looking at what everyone else has, getting angry about what you don't have. And the text says that in this state, living in harmony with others becomes almost impossible.
Yeah, your relationships turn turbulent and filled with overwhelming bitterness.
Oh.
Because when you're stuck in the mire, you have no horizon to look at. Your vision is entirely restricted to the mud itself and the other people who are stuck in the mud right beside you.
That sounds miserable.
It is. Every movement they make splashes you. Every movement you make splashes them. You are too close, too entangled, and without a shared direction, all you can do is fight over the limited space you occupy.
That makes a lot of sense. It actually reminds me of a specific thought I had while trying to wrap my head around this concept.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, think about the physical experience of walking through an incredibly crowded room, like a packed train station during rush hour or a really busy concert venue.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
If you have a clear, urgent destination, let's say you see the exit door and you're 5 minutes late for your train, you just smoothly weave around people.
You're just dodging left and right.
Exactly. You duck to the left, you sidestep to the right. You don't even really register the faces in the crowd because your eyes are absolutely locked on that exit sign.
Right, you're on a mission.
But if you do not have a destination, if you're just standing there in the middle of the concourse with nowhere to be, every single person who bumps your shoulder feels like a personal, intentional attack.
Oh, that's such a good point.
You start looking around thinking, why is everyone pushing me? Why is everyone in this city so incredibly rude?
And the thing is, the crowd in that scenario hasn't changed their behavior at all.
Not one bit.
The people are bumping into you with the exact same frequency and force. The only variable that changed is your internal state.
Wow.
When you have the exit in sight, when you possess a clear, immediate goal, the bumps are simply physics. They're minor physical obstacles to maneuver around on your way to the train.
Just objects in the way.
Right. But when you lack a goal, the bumps become your entire world. They formulate a narrative of victimization and suffering.
Which brings us to a really powerful self-audit that the text suggests for the listener.
Yes.
If you're sitting there right now listening to us and you find yourself constantly agitated by the people around you, maybe it's their laziness, their greed, their selfishness.
Or even just their general indifference.
Yeah, Shuafeng argues you need to reframe that agitation. It is not a sign that the world is broken. It is a symptom.
It's an internal alarm bell signaling that you have lost your goal.
Exactly.
It acts as a stark diagnostic tool for our emotional health. The intense irritation you feel toward a coworker's incompetence is actually a reflection of your own lack of purpose in that moment.
That is tough to hear.
It is. The logic is that if your life's purpose were truly grand enough, their incompetence wouldn't even register on your emotional radar.
It would just be a bump in the train station.
Exactly. It would be a minor pebble on a very large mountain you are focused on climbing. You would simply step over it and continue ascending.
Let's follow that logic, though, because I hit a bit of a wall when reading the source material.
Oh, where did you get stuck?
Well, if the diagnosis is that our goals are too small, then the obvious cure is to find a grand goal. But grand is a very subjective word.
That's true.
Like becoming the CEO of a Fortune 500 company is grand. Winning an Olympic gold medal is grand. Curing a disease is grand. But Shenifeng uses a very specific, almost esoteric framework to define a grand goal.
He certainly does.
I was reading the section about the Chanyuan celestial, and I have to admit, I was completely lost. What exactly is this celestial path he's outlining?
The essay uses the concept of the Chanyuan celestial as a highly specific case study to illustrate the sheer scale required for a goal to be truly transformative.
This is not about being a CEO.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Sheffing isn't talking about career milestones or athletic achievements. The celestial path he outlines has two core objectives.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first objective is to experience joy, freedom, happiness, and bliss in the present.
Sounds pretty good so far.
Right. But the second objective is where the scale expands dramatically. The goal of the Chanyuan celestial is to extend their life into higher, specific realms of existence.
Higher realms.
Yes. The text explicitly names these realms as the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, or the celestial islands continent of Elysium.
Okay, so we are talking about spiritual immortality, or existing in a state of paradise for thousands of years.
Well, exactly.
That is a massive departure from hoping for a promotion next quarter.
It's on a completely different level.
Yeah.
The text introduces these realms as literal destinations within its philosophical framework.
Oh.
However, for the purpose of analyzing the psychological utility of this essay, the function of these goals is what truly matters.
And what is their function?
Their unfathomable scale, a goal that spans 1,000 years or aims for an eternity of absolute bliss, is so overwhelmingly massive that it completely recalibrates your daily perspective.
It completely dwarfs a stressful Tuesday morning staff meeting.
That is the exact mechanism at work. The text states that with a clear goal of this immense magnitude, the complex web of human life suddenly becomes straightforward.
It simplifies things.
It becomes significantly lighter. Because your focus is set on an eternity of bliss, you naturally avoid forming deep emotional connections with those whose life paths contradict your goals. You learn to simply ignore roadside distractions.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and where I kind of want to push back pretty hard on the text's advice.
Let's hear it.
The essay explicitly says you should avoid paths that diverge from your purpose, even if they are incredibly appealing. It says to ignore paths lined with wealth, fame, beauty, or promises of prestige.
Right, the roadside distractions.
But my question is, by actively avoiding all these things, by refusing to engage with the pursuit of wealth or career advancement, isn't this person just burying their head in the sand?
You think it's escapism?
Yeah. It feels like a form of extreme escapism. How does ignoring money work in a capitalist society where you still, have to pay a mortgage?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of the author's philosophy, Xu is not advocating for literal starvation or a failure to participate in society.
Okay, so he's not saying quit your job and live in the woods.
No, he is arguing for extreme emotional prioritization. When you describe someone as burying their head in the sand, you're operating under the assumption that wealth, fame, and prestige represent the absolute truth of the real world.
Well, they pay the bills.
Sure, but from the perspective of the Chanyuan celestial, those societal markers of success are the illusion. They are the architecture of the mire.
Oh, wow. So pursuing a massive salary is just digging yourself deeper into the mud.
In this framework, yes. They are roadside attractions trying to pull you off the highway.
The highway to the 1,000-year world.
Exactly. Imagine you were driving cross-country to a permanent paradise destination. You see a glowing neon sign for the world's largest ball of yarn.
I mean, I might stop.
Right. Stopping to look at it might provide momentary entertainment, but it fundamentally delays your journey.
That makes sense.
If you pull over at every single roadside attraction, every opportunity for minor prestige, every chance to prove a point in an argument.
Oh, the internet arguments.
Yes. Or every pursuit of a slightly bigger paycheck purely for the sake of ego, you will never reach the actual destination.
You'll just be stuck at the world's largest ball of yarn forever.
Pretty much. Prioritizing the grand goal means developing a ruthless filter for what actually deserves your emotional investment. You might still work a job to pay your mortgage, but your identity and your emotional well-being are not tied to the promotion or the office politics.
I see the distinction. You're physically present in the economy, but emotionally detached from the rat race.
Exactly.
That makes sense when we're discussing abstract concepts like fame or ambition.
Mm.
But let's bring this down to the hardest, most grounded part of human existence.
Yeah.
It's one thing to ignore a neon sign for a roadside attraction. You can just keep driving. But what happens when the people dragging you into the mire are your own parents?
Family dynamics.
Yeah. What if it's your spouse or your children or the coworkers you are forced to sit next to for 40 hours a week? You cannot just drive past them.
The essay does not shy away from this reality at all. In fact, Xu moves from the abstract scale of 1,000-year worlds down to deeply practical and, frankly, very challenging interpersonal advice.
I was hoping you would.
He addresses the exact question of what to do when those closest to you bring you distress. And the methodology provided requires a profound shift in how we view our relationships.
It really does. The text lays out some specific principles for dealing with close relations, and the first one is a tough pill to swallow.
It's very blunt.
It basically says, stop trying to change them. The text argues that everyone has their own life path, and trying to alter someone else's trajectory is a thankless, exhausting task.
Right.
The phrasing used is incredibly direct. It says, let those bound for heaven go to heaven, and those destined for hell go to hell.
It is a striking way of demanding that you surrender your illusion of control over other people's destinies.
Surrender control. That's hard.
Very hard. But the emotional friction you feel with your family often stems from a deeply ingrained belief that it is your responsibility to fix them.
Or guide them or make them see the world the way you do.
Exactly. Shuaving is telling you to drop that burden entirely.
Which perfectly sets up the next piece of advice. And honestly, this brings us to my absolute favorite metaphor in the entire essay.
I think I know which one you mean.
To explain this concept of acceptance, the text says, allow a carrot to remain a carrot and a cabbage to remain a cabbage.
The brilliance of that metaphor lies in its undeniable simplicity.
It's so good.
A cabbage is fundamentally biologically different from a carrot. No amount of arguing, coaxing, guilt-tripping, or silent resentment is ever going to transform a cabbage into a carrot.
Right. If you were standing in your kitchen, furious and screaming at a cabbage because it wasn't orange and crunchy, anyone watching would think you had lost your mind.
They'd call for help.
But we do this exact same thing with our spouses and our coworkers every single day. We know exactly who they are, we know their tendencies, and yet we look at a cabbage and demand, why aren't you a carrot?
We constantly demand that they act differently.
We get angry that they aren't behaving the way we imagine they should.
And the text highlights the absurdity of that expectation. Trying to turn a cabbage into a carrot is not a failing on the part of the cabbage. It is a failing of your own perception.
Wow. Yeah, you're the one yelling at a vegetable.
Exactly. You are the one choosing to fight reality. Shuafeng quotes a proverb in this section: "Those who can change themselves are wise. Those who try to change others are foolish."
The instruction is clear. Stop turning yourself into a fool by trying to forcefully re-engineer the psychological makeup of the people around you.
Accept their nature and adjust your own navigation accordingly.
That brings us to the most difficult real-world application in the text. It's one thing to accept someone's personality. It's another to accept their behavior when it directly impacts your workload.
Here we go. The chores.
Yes. The essay talks about sharing resources gladly. But if the people around you don't share with you, you are supposed to let it go calmly, without anger.
Right.
And Schwiffing highlights a highly specific scenario that I think is a universal human frustration: being busy while others are idle.
Oh, that's a classic trigger.
Think about the sheer rage of scrubbing the kitchen floors, doing all the laundry, meeting all the deadlines at work, while someone else just sits around watching television.
It boils the blood.
To do all that labor without feeling a shred of jealousy or frustration feels almost biologically impossible. How does the text expect us to just let that go?
It feels impossible because our brains are naturally wired to track reciprocity and fairness.
Exactly. We want things to be 50-50.
Right. And this is exactly why achieving this state requires the grand goal we discussed earlier.
How so?
If your primary goal in life is simply fairness in the household, then a partner sitting on the couch while you scrub the floor represents a massive critical violation of your core objective.
Because my goal is failing right in front of my eyes.
Precisely. You will inevitably feel intense resentment. You'll begin doing mental math, keeping a ledger of every chore, and you will sink rapidly into the mire of comparison and anger.
I cooked dinner 3 times this week. You only cooked once. You owe me. That constant mental accounting is exhausting.
It drains your cognitive resources and anchors you to petty grievances.
Hmm?
But if your overarching goal is to experience inner freedom and bliss and to prepare your consciousness for a higher state of existence,
The 1,000-year world.
right, then the dirty floor and the lazy roommate become utterly inconsequential to your actual mission.
You just clean it to clean it.
You are scrubbing the floor simply because the floor needs scrubbing, not as a transaction to prove your moral superiority or to guilt someone else into action.
The text provides a fascinating psychological trick for how to view yourself in these exact moments of imbalance.
It's a very clever reframe.
It really is. It says you must think of yourself as a celestial being, temporarily living among mortals.
I love that.
You maintain your own virtues, you continue your personal journey toward the celestial world, completely undisturbed by the behavior of the mere mortals around you, even if those mortals happen to be your family members.
Right, you're just visiting.
You contribute your labor selflessly, entirely unconcerned with whether you are gaining or losing in the immediate transaction.
Adopting the persona of a celestial being acts as a powerful emotional buffer. It allows you to be in the world, but not of it.
That's a great way to put it.
You are still providing service. You are cooking, cleaning, and contributing to society, but your internal state is untethered from the reciprocity of the people around you.
You aren't expecting a mortal to act like a celestial.
Exactly. You are acting out of your own virtuous nature rather than operating on a conditional contract where your kindness requires their validation.
So how do we stop keeping that ledger of fairness? Because the urge to make sure everyone is pulling their weight is so strong.
Shuefeng offers an ultimate coping mechanism for this deeply ingrained habit. The instruction is to focus entirely on executing your own tasks with excellence, and, this is the critical mechanism, leave the ultimate reckoning to the universe.
The ultimate reckoning, meaning the universe keeps the score so you don't have to.
Precisely. The text asserts a fundamental belief that the universe, or the natural order of things, will eventually settle all accounts.
Karma, essentially.
In a way, yes. The energy you put out will be rewarded in the long arc of your journey. Therefore, you do not need to be the accountant of fairness in your own home or office.
That sounds like a huge relief, honestly.
Releasing the ledger to the universe frees up an immense amount of psychological bandwidth.
So what does this all mean when we pull the lens back? We've explored the heavy slog of the mire, the massive scale required for a celestial goal, the futility of turning cabbages into carrots, and the relief of letting the universe keep the ledger.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. What is the final overarching thesis we are supposed to walk away with?
This raises an important question, and the essay builds toward a very powerful conclusion regarding the nature of true freedom.
Okay.
Feng posits that the individuals who live the most freely, the most confidently, and the most brightly are those who operate entirely without ego, selfishness, or attachment.
It all comes back to the ego. That is the engine of the mire.
The text argues that all interpersonal trouble, all pain, all anxiety, and all fear ultimately stem from two intertwined issues.
Which are?
The lack of a grand life goal and the state of being bound by strong egotism and self-centeredness. When your ego is in the driver's seat, every action taken by someone else is interpreted as a personal affront.
Everything is about you.
Right. Everything is a threat to your status or your comfort.
Because the ego demands that the universe bend to its will. The ego demands that the cabbages turn into carrots just to please you. The ego demands that your coworkers constantly acknowledge your hard work, and that your spouse always matches your effort perfectly. And when reality inevitably fails to meet those demands, you suffer immensely.
The final advice the essay offers to combat this suffering is startling in its bluntness.
What does he say?
Feng writes, "Let the dead be, let the living live. Just keep climbing toward your goal."
Let the dead be, let the living live. That is an incredibly stark directive. It is telling us to radically detach from the drama of other people's choices.
It is a call to absolute, unwavering focus. You cannot carry someone else up a mountain if they refuse to climb.
Right.
If you spend all your time and energy arguing with the fitness camp about why they aren't climbing faster, you will never see the summit yourself.
That is a phenomenal visual. So for everyone listening, here's the immediate practical value you can take away from this deep dive.
Apply it today.
Yes. The next time you find yourself tangled in a bitter argument over something trivial, or you are sitting at your desk seething with resentment over a lazy coworker, do not let that anger consume your day.
Don't sink into the mud.
Instead, use it as an alarm bell. Let that feeling of the heavy slog remind you to look up from the mire. Ask yourself in that exact moment, have I forgotten my destination? What is my goal right now?
That's the real question.
Because if your goal is truly big enough, the annoyance standing right in front of you shrinks down to its proper tiny size.
It serves as a remarkable tool for daily emotional regulation.
It really does.
However, deeply exploring Shuefeng's philosophy also leaves us with a lingering, somewhat provocative question to consider long after this discussion ends.
Ooh, leave us with a thought.
Well, if the ultimate solution to interpersonal conflict is to view yourself as a celestial being among mortals, to focus solely on your own path, accept others as unchangeable cabbages, and let the universe settle the score.
Right, if you do all of that.
Does true inner peace require a fundamental emotional detachment from the people we love the most?
Wow.
Can we ever truly share a grand life goal with someone else? Or, when the journey gets difficult, are we ultimately always climbing that mountain alone?
That is a heavy, beautiful question to mull over. Does finding peace mean letting go of our deepest attachments?
Something to think about.
It definitely changes how you navigate the crowded train station of your daily life. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope we gave you some fascinating tools to manage the friction of your week and perhaps inspired you to redefine your own exit door.
Absolutely.
Keep exploring, stay curious, and most importantly, keep your eyes on the summit. Have a great day, everyone.